Have you been hearing a strange ringing in your ears when no one else hears it? When the room is quiet? When the world seems still? That high-pitched whine, that phantom buzz, that persistent hum that won't go away. It's not your imagination, and it's not something you should ignore. Because tinnitus, the medical name for that sound, may be your brain's way of warning you that something deeper is wrong. If you're over 50 and hearing this noise more often, you need to know tinnitus isn't just annoying. It could be a red flag, one you need to listen to before it's too late. You think it's nothing, just a little buzz, a little ringing. You notice it most when things go quiet before bed early in the morning in the car. Sometimes it's soft, sometimes it's sharp, but it always fades just enough to make you think it's no big deal. And that's where the danger lies. Because tinnitus is not the problem, it's the symptom. It's your body raising a flag. And the more you ignore it, the more likely it is that something far more serious is being missed. For years, doctors told you tinnitus was harmless, just part of aging, just your ears getting older. But that's only part of the story. The truth is, tinnitus is your nervous system trying to tell you something's wrong. Sometimes it's your hearing, sometimes it's your circulation, sometimes it's a neurological imbalance, something in your brain itself. And in many cases, it's all three woven together in a silent storm. What starts as a whisper becomes a warning. And if you don't catch it early, it can grow into chronic discomfort, sleep disruption, memory decline, and even emotional exhaustion. Let's talk about what tinnitus really is. It's not a sound from the outside world. It's a sound created inside your auditory system, inside your brain. That means the problem isn't always in your ears. It's in the way your brain is processing silence. And when the brain starts to misfire, when the balance of nerves and blood flow and signal clarity starts to go sideways, you hear something that isn't really there. But it is real. And it's telling you that your auditory system, your hearing, your cognition, your sensory balance is under stress. Now here's where things get more serious. Studies now show that chronic tinnitus is often associated with an increased risk of cognitive decline. That's right. People who experience regular ringing in the ears are more likely to experience memory issues later in life. Why? Because the brain is trying so hard to filter out the sound of tinnitus that it robs focus and energy from other areas like memory, speech, and concentration. It's like having a leak in the plumbing system. The pressure is off and other areas suffer. But here's the part that hits the hardest. Many seniors don't talk about it. You may have tinnitus and never mention it to your doctor. Maybe you're embarrassed. Maybe you think it's not worth complaining about. Maybe you just assume there's nothing anyone can do. But silence is the most dangerous response. Because there are ways to reduce it. There are ways to calm the storm. But only if you take it seriously. Only if you stop ignoring the ring that's been trying to save you all along. So what causes it? It's not just loud noise exposure, though. That's one of the biggest culprits. It's also high blood pressure. It's poor circulation to the inner ear. It's inflammation. It's neck tension. It's stress. Yes, even stress can spike the volume of your tinnitus. And the more it spikes, the harder it becomes to sleep, to concentrate, to feel at peace. You begin to dread silence. You start leaving the TV on all night just to drown it out. You start avoiding quiet places because that's when it's the loudest. And what happens next? Your body never rests. Your brain never shuts down. Your system never repairs. And slowly, the constant sound becomes a constant stressor, fueling anxiety, tension, and exhaustion. You don't even realize how much energy you're spending just trying to tune it out. And when your energy runs low, everything suffers. But there's more. Tinnitus can also be tied to hearing loss. That's right. Sometimes the ringing is your brain's way of compensating for sounds it no longer hears. The auditory nerve isn't getting a full signal, so your brain fills in the gaps. That phantom sound, that's your brain inventing what it thinks it should be hearing. And that's a sign you need a hearing evaluation. Not because you're old, but because your brain is adapting, and not in a good way. Still think it's harmless? Then let's talk about sleep. One of the most reported side effects of chronic tinnitus is insomnia. People lie awake at night with that unrelenting hum, unable to escape it, unable to relax. And without sleep, your brain can't clean itself. Literally, sleep is when your brain flushes out toxins, resets your nervous system, and consolidates memory. So when tinnitus keeps you from sleeping, it's not just annoying, it's a health risk, a serious one. And yet there's something even more hidden. something few people talk about. The emotional toll. The constant internal noise makes you feel alone, trapped in your own head. You can't explain it to others. You start to feel like it's your fault. You get irritable. You withdraw. You smile less. You lose patience. It feels like you're carrying an invisible weight that no one else can hear or see. That's not minor. That's not just a sound. That's your emotional health being chipped away one quiet, high-pitched tone at a time. So what do you do about it? That's what we'll dive into next. Because while tinnitus may not have a universal cure, it absolutely has real research-backed strategies for relief. But first, you have to stop pretending it's not real. You have to start listening to what your ears and your brain have been trying to tell you all along. So now you understand tinnitus isn't a small problem. It's a message, a symptom. A siren, sometimes soft, sometimes screaming, telling you that something inside needs attention. And it's time you started listening. Because if you don't take it seriously, if you keep brushing it off as background noise, you may miss your window to protect not just your hearing, but your memory, your mood, your balance, and even your independence. This isn't about fear, it's about action. Smart, simple, life-extending action. Let's begin with one of the most ignored causes: circulation. Blood flow to the brain and ears is everything. Your inner ear is an incredibly sensitive system, relying on constant, stable microcirculation to function properly. And yet, as we age, our vessels stiffen, our pressure rises, and that smooth flow begins to sputter. And when the inner ear doesn't get the oxygen and nutrients it needs, it starts to misfire. The auditory nerve loses clarity. And in that silence, your brain fills the void with noise. That noise is tinnitus. So if you're hearing that high-pitched tone regularly, you need to ask, how's your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your hydration? These aren't just heart health issues, they're hearing health issues too. And let's talk about medications. You'd be shocked to know how many common prescriptions list tinnitus as a possible side effect. Some blood pressure drugs, diuretics, NSAIDs, even certain antibiotics. If you've started hearing ringing after a medication change, you need to bring it up with your doctor. You're not being difficult. You're being smart, because your ears are giving you feedback your blood tests can't. They're telling you something's out of balance. Something needs attention. But maybe you've had perfect hearing your whole life. Maybe you've never shot a gun or worked around machines. Maybe you've taken care of yourself, avoided loud concerts, never even wore headphones. That doesn't mean you're safe, because tinnitus isn't only about noise damage. It's also about nervous system overload. And that brings us to stress. Chronic stress is one of the most powerful amplifiers of tinnitus. Why? Because your nervous system, the part of your body responsible for survival, is always scanning for danger. And when your stress is high, your system goes on high alert. That means it becomes more sensitive to sound, more reactive, more likely to obsess over that tiny hum, that invisible frequency. And the more attention you give it, the louder it gets. That's not weakness, that's neurology. Your brain is trying to protect you, but in doing so, it's fixating, looping, magnifying something that isn't dangerous but feels invasive. If you've ever noticed your tinnitus spike after an argument, during a period of grief, or when you've been overwhelmed, that's not coincidence. That's the stress tinnitus loop tightening. And unless you learn to break that loop through breath, stillness, mindfulness movement, it will continue to spiral. You cannot fight tinnitus with willpower alone. You have to train your nervous system to calm down. That's where real relief begins. Now here's a powerful insight. Your brain filters out information all day long. It tunes out background noise, adapts to smells, even ignores parts of your visual field. But when it comes to tinnitus, that filtering function is impaired. Why? Because of your attention. The more you check on the ringing, the more your brain flags it as important. And the more important it seems, the more it gets amplified. That's why so many tinnitus therapies focus not on eliminating the sound, but on reducing your reaction to it. Because the real goal is not silence, it's peace. You don't need the ringing to disappear completely. You need it to stop controlling your life. One of the most effective ways to shift your brain's relationship to tinnitus is called sound therapy. It uses soft, consistent, neutral background sounds, white noise, pink noise, nature sounds to help retrain your auditory system. Think of it like giving your brain another voice to focus on, not to mask the ringing, but to normalize it. When the ringing is no longer the only sound in the room, your brain starts to deprioritize it. And over time, it can literally unhear the signal or at least tune it out. But none of this works if you don't take that first step awareness. Acknowledgement. You have to stop pretending this isn't affecting you. Because when you keep it bottled in, when you try to push through without help, you isolate yourself. You cut yourself off from real strategies, real support, and real healing. You're not alone. Millions of older adults experience tinnitus, some temporarily, some permanently. But the ones who thrive are the ones who act, the ones who ask for evaluations, who question medications, who explore therapy, who practice mindfulness, who move their bodies to improve circulation, who shift their focus from panic to peace. And perhaps most importantly, they talk about it. They open up to friends, to doctors, to themselves. They stop pretending. They stop hiding. They say, this is real. This is happening. And I'm going to deal with it. That is the shift that changes everything. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. Because the longer you wait, the more this sound becomes the soundtrack of your life. And you deserve better than that. By now, you've realized that tinnitus isn't just an ear issue. It's a full body, full brain experience. It touches your sleep, your mood, your energy, and your hope. And the longer it stays unaddressed, the more damage it does not just to your hearing, but to your spirit. Because the sound doesn't just live in your ears, it follows you into every room, every silence, every moment you once treasured. You used to enjoy quiet mornings. Now the moment the house goes still, the ringing roars in. You used to find peace in solitude. Now it feels like a trap. But that ends here, because this is the moment you start taking your mind and your hearing back from the noise. Let's talk about what you can actually do today without waiting for a cure. Because relief is real, but it doesn't start with medicine, it starts with mindset. The first most powerful shift is moving from resistance to acceptance. That doesn't mean giving up. It means stopping the war in your head. Because every time you tell yourself, I can't stand this sound, you give it more power. Every time you listen for it, worry about it, tense up when you hear it. You're training your brain to keep it front and center. That's not your fault. That's how the nervous system works. But that's why the most successful tinnitus strategies aren't about volume. They're about your reaction to the volume. One of the simplest and most effective techniques is called habituation. That's the brain's natural ability to adapt to repeated stimuli. Just like you stop noticing the sound of the fridge or the hum of the lights, you can teach your brain to deprioritize the sound of your tinnitus. How? By creating new, consistent sound environments. Low background noise, white noise machines, gentle nature sounds, soft instrumental music. These all send the message to your brain. This sound is not a threat. And over time, your brain begins to filter it. Not erase it, but ignore it. And in that ignoring, relief begins. But let's go deeper. Your emotional state is the real amplifier. Stress doesn't just trigger tinnitus, it feeds it. Think of your nervous system as a volume knob. The more tense, anxious, or hypervigilant you are, the higher the volume climbs. That's why practices like mindfulness meditation, deep breathing, and even gentle yoga have shown incredible promise. Not because they eliminate the sound, but because they turn down your nervous system's reactivity. And that changes everything. When you feel safe, your brain stops scanning for danger. When you're relaxed, you stop fixating. And when you stop fixating, the sound fades into the background where it belongs. Nutrition matters too. You might not realize it, but certain deficiencies and imbalances can make tinnitus worse. Magnesium, B12, and zinc all play a role in nerve health and auditory function. Dehydration can increase the perception of sound. Even excess caffeine or alcohol can raise your internal volume. That doesn't mean you have to live like a monk, but it does mean paying attention. What you eat, what you drink, how you sleep, these are not small details. They are the foundation of brain balance. And tinnitus is at its core a balance problem. Don't forget posture. Yes, your neck, your jaw, your shoulders. Muscle tension, especially in the neck, and temporomandibular joint TMJ can exacerbate tinnitus. That's why some people notice the ringing gets worse when they clench their jaw, tilt their head, or feel stiff after sleeping wrong. Chiropractic care, gentle stretching, even massage can sometimes ease that muscular pressure, and with it reduce the intensity of the sound. Again, it's not about curing, it's about calming. And your body has more influence over your ears than you think. And let's talk tech. Hearing aids have become smarter than ever. Some are designed not just to amplify sound, but to blend tinnitus masking tones into your daily hearing. If your tinnitus is linked to hearing loss, in many cases these devices can dramatically improve your experience. Not just by helping you hear better, but by giving your brain the sensory input it needs to stop generating phantom sound. When your ears get what they need, your brain stops guessing. And when your brain stops guessing, the noise fades. But beyond all these techniques lies the most important truth: you are not alone. The ringing in your ears may feel like a private burden, but millions of people, many silently, live with it every day. The difference is, some of them have learned how to live above it, how to reclaim their peace, how to create a life where the sound doesn't steal their joy. And you can be one of them. It's not about erasing the sound, it's about rebuilding your power around it. Because tinnitus doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're old. It means your body is asking you to listen, to move, to breathe, to adjust, to advocate for yourself, to feel what you've been pushing down, to soften the tight places in your life emotionally, physically, mentally, so your system can recalibrate. And here's what they don't tell you: the brain can heal. Not just when you're young, but now. At 60, at 70, even at 80. Your neural pathways are still changing, still listening, still learning. If you teach your brain that the sound is a threat, it will panic. If you teach it that the sound is just background, it will relax. This is not wishful thinking. This is neuroscience, and it's on your side. So what will you do? Keep suffering in silence, hoping it fades, or begin the process of changing your story? One breath, one sound, one choice at a time. You've made it this far not just through the ringing in your ears, but through the years of brushing it off, minimizing it, calling it just aging. But now you know better. Now you understand that tinnitus is not just a sound, it's a signal. It's your body's alarm, and it's not going to stop until you decide to stop pretending it doesn't matter. Because when you ignore it, you're not just ignoring your ears. You're ignoring your brain, your heart, your peace. And if you've ever lain awake at night, staring at the ceiling, praying for silence, then you know exactly what this little sound can steal. It takes your rest, your focus, your mood, your ability to enjoy the quiet moments of life. It chips away at your confidence and wears down your spirit. You start to question your mind. You pull back from conversations. You stop enjoying music. You avoid stillness. And eventually you lose more than just hearing. You lose part of yourself. But what if I told you that this doesn't have to be your story? What if I told you that even if the ringing never goes away completely, the suffering around it can? Because here's the secret no one ever shared with you. Tinnitus isn't the end of peace. It's an invitation. An invitation to listen closer, not to the sound, but to your life, to your body, to your needs. You've spent years taking care of others, years pushing through pain, dismissing your discomfort, pretending you're fine. But tinnitus won't let you do that anymore. It demands attention, not panic, not obsession, but awareness. And with awareness comes choice. You can choose to keep suffering, or you can choose to shift, to breathe deeper, to move more, to rest more completely, to listen without fear, to reclaim the stillness you thought you'd lost. Because you haven't lost it, it's just buried under the tension, the noise, the worry, and you can find it again. Start here, start now. Turn down the distractions, turn up the calm. Learn what foods, habits, medications, and emotions are triggering your system. Try sound therapy at night, soft rain, ocean waves, or brown noise. Stretch your neck and jaw daily. Talk to someone. And most importantly, don't carry this alone. Tinnitus is common, but it doesn't have to be your constant companion. With the right tools, the right habits, and the right mindset, you can soften its grip. You can feel human again, whole again. Not like someone drowning in sound, but someone rising above it. So the next time the ringing starts, don't flinch, don't panic, just breathe. Just notice. Just listen to what your body's telling you and respond with care, not fear. Because this ringing, however annoying, might just be your body's most persistent reminder that you still have power. You still have control. You still have a choice. And now that you know what to do, what will your choice be?